Hey gang, it's 2020. Happy New Year to everyone out there. I'm really excited to bring you this week's episode. But first, let's dig this music here for a minute. Nice. Hey, thanks Keith Nolan. So that was produced by Keith Nolan, who's a buddy of mine that lives over in Bangkok. Great music producer, piano player, singer, blues artist. Keith, I finally found the right spot for this track that you sent me. I really appreciate it because I'm in Vegas right now and it's just got the right vibe that goes with the scene out here because everything is a little more pumping than usual, when you're in Vegas. If you want to know more about Keith Nolan, make sure you check out episode 49. Keith, hopefully I will see you this year sometime in Thailand. So working on the plan right now. But right now, I'm also in Vegas and kicking off the year and trying something new with a solo podcast episode where I'm breaking down 10 ways I'm reinventing myself for 2020 since it's a new decade, trying to always continue to change and learn and do new things. And I say, everyone, get rid of your resolutions and start getting into reinvention because reinventions, once you reinvent yourself, you never go back. That's the way I think of it. So hopefully this helps people maybe kick off the year right. Listen to the end for a bonus reinvention where everyone listening out there can get involved and we can all help each other with our own reinventions as we go forward into 2020. All right, let's get into it. This episode of JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast is brought to you by MG Schlachter, a built environment and architectural consulting firm with an in-house production team. Delivering support services in the retail, hospitality, and residential sectors for leading brands worldwide, MG Schlachter is reinventing, something near and dear to my heart, of course, architectural support services. Suffice it to say that whatever built environment or architectural project you're working on, MG Schlachter can step in and help accelerate your growth. So, if you're looking for a built environment and architectural services firm with an in-house production team to help you reinvent your next project, check out MG Schlachter. Find them on the web at mgschlachter.com. That's mgschlachter.com, mgschlachter.com.
Welcome to JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, JimJim.
Hey everybody, this is JimJim, and welcome to episode 62, JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm sitting here today by myself on the 35th floor of the Cosmopolitan Hotel here in Las Vegas, and I'm checking out the sunrise right now. It's early in the morning, and it's a little misty outside. I can see the mountains in the background. I'm not sure what the mountain range is. I should probably know that, but the haze of the morning is just kind of getting cut through by the sun. And I got a great view out the window here. But for 2020, I'm doing something a little bit different, and I'm giving you my top 10 ways I'm going to reinvent myself for 2020. So a little bit different, no guest today. So here we go. Let's drop in and get down this list. So it's my top 10 for ways to reinvent myself for 2020. All right, so number one is I wanted to produce a solo podcast episode. So here we are, and I'm just going to record it and just try to get through it. And I wanted to, challenge myself to be a better podcaster and share more value with everyone and let people know how I'm thinking more so about the world and as I try to reinvent myself and try to think about the world and how it's being reinvented. I thought, hey, you know what? I got to keep changing and evolving my approach to not just the podcast, but my consulting business, JimJim Group, and just the other things I like to do in life, music and all these other things, which we'll hear about as I go down the list a little bit more about. But the first one was to produce a solo podcast. So here we are. I'm trying it out, and it's you'll hear all the warts and screw ups. I'm just going to let things play and not going to edit it too much, but. So that was number one on my list, to produce a solo podcast. So here we go. We're going to start going through these and get through 10, and I got a special one, bonus one at the end for everybody. So number two is I'm growing my hair out. Yeah, I know that's it's a little weird, and maybe it's a little I don't know, superficial or frivolous in terms of trying to reinvent myself, or trying to see the world in a different way. But honestly, I think it's one of the most for me profound ways to try to do it, because it's kind of part of your identity what you look like, right? And over the years, I had my hair a little bit longer when I was younger, probably like mid-20s, I would say. My hair was a little bit longer, kind of, but it was never long hair. It was just a little bit longer. And I was never like a long hair guy. I was never like a hippie looking kind of dude. It just kind of wasn't me, wasn't my persona. But I'm not sure what's gotten into myself lately. Maybe because I'm trying to reinvent myself a little bit, where I decided, I'm just gonna let my hair grow. I'm just in this groove right now, and it's a little bit of a challenge, because as I'm letting it grow, like, I don't know if it looks that good, and especially, like, I think it's gotten through the most awkward looking stage, like when you first start letting your hair grow. And it's like, oh man, like there's no way you can style it to make it look good. And it's not shaped right. And oh man. Anyways, I think it's gotten through the most awkward phase, but now it's getting longer. I'm not sure what to do with it and how to deal with it on a day-to-day basis, and if I should put any product in it to kind of tame it down a little bit or not. But I'm just letting it grow. And there's a couple things that happened, I guess, visually, when I wake up in the morning, every morning now, I look at it, I'm like, my God, my hair is just out of control and crazy. But it forces me to see myself in a different way. So that's one thing. So it sort of works on your mind that way. Also, it works on your, perception of reality, or the way other people look at you and treat you. So that's kind of an interesting thing to find out as well. So some people, like I just ran into, a couple of weeks ago, about a week ago, it was over the holidays. I went out to this blues bar. It was a jam session, and I ran into an old girlfriend of mine, kind of girlfriend. We didn't really date much, but a friend. We were fond of each other, had crushes on each other, whatever. And she looked at me, she's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, your hair's so long. And she's like, man, it's so rock and roll. I love it. And I was like, that was one of the first few people that said they actually like my long hair. So interesting what people's reactions are. And I'm like, this is a girl I really had kind of a crush on too. So I was like, okay, maybe this works for me. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, that's number 2, growing my hair out, and we'll see how that works as time moves on. I'm going to try to keep it long for 2020, but I don't know, I'll probably end up having to trim it at some point because it's getting annoying, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, all right, let's get on to number 3. Number 3 is travel, more slow travel. So to me, travel is one of the top ways to reinvent yourself, to me, of all time, for a number of reasons, because it, really gets you out of your comfort zone. It gets you into a different environment. It gets you different stimuluses. And, if you're out there and you need a break from work, a lot of people, the way they travel is they just drop into, New Orleans or Vegas or wherever, for just like 3 or 4 days, and they party it up, and then they go back to work because they're just trying to really relieve stress and just take a break. That's not the kind of travel I'm talking about. I'm talking about, extended, slow travel that really allows you to see a different culture, really allows you to get into a different space or different flow, a different frequency or something, however you want to describe it. And so I want to do more of that. And I've been doing that really starting in 2016. I had not traveled, I had not done much slow travel until about 2016. I mean, way back in 2002, after I got laid off, was the first time I had like a little glimpse into it. Since I was laid off, I went traveling for a month, and I went, international. I went to Australia and Thailand at that time. And that was the first time I'd ever traveled for a month, and that was the last time I'd ever traveled for a month until 2016. And in 2016, I got the bug because my clients were frustrating me with the consulting I was doing. I thought, I need to change things up a little bit. And So I dropped into Thailand at that time to visit my buddy, Ed, who lives over there. And it really opened my eyes and really got me into a different thought process, really changed my thinking, and really, kind of woke me up in a sense that said, hey, maybe it's time to change, maybe it's time to do something different. Anyways, it's one of the greatest ways to reinvent yourself if you really want to try to change or do something different. And think of it this way. So even if you're thinking hey, man, I might want to take a new job, or I want to start a new career, or I want to move to a different place from where I'm living now, any kind of big change that you're trying to do, if you go and travel slow, I'm telling you, this is going to work, okay? If you go and travel for a couple weeks and really get out of your normal day-to-day routine, there's something about it that breaks up your thought patterns and that opens up different avenues and makes new connections in your mind. And that when you come back to your normal existence, your normal day-to-day life, after those couple weeks or 3 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it might be, you really have a different perspective and you're able to make different decisions. That's the key. Really, you're able to be you know what? I'm actually going to move ahead now, because it really just kind of gets you out of that kind of groove that you're stuck in. Anyways, so where am I traveling this year? All right, so right now I'm planning in 2020. I want to drop into the Philippines probably end of January and be over in Asia in February. I try to get out of the Ohio weather for the winter. And I'd like to go to Vietnam, so a new country that I've never traveled to before, Vietnam. Also in the summer, I'm thinking about being in Europe, and maybe what do they call it, the Middle East. So I'm thinking about maybe going to Israel as well. So there's reasons why, which I'll tell you in a second. But that'll be new places for me, and again, more slow travel. Probably the Europe-Israel thing will be maybe 2 or 3 weeks on the road, since I'll be over there, and probably 5 or 6 weeks here in Asia earlier in the year. So that's what I'm thinking about travel. All right, let's get to number 4. All right, number 4 is attend a new conference. So, for the entrepreneur people out there, for the business folks out there, and really for anyone who's just, into a passion or whatever it is, attending a conference is just a great way to really up your game in all aspects of whatever endeavor you're looking to do. So for me, I like to learn about technologies. I like to learn about business. Like to learn about the online digital world, and just attending a conference, it's just a way to up your level immediately. You get all these people that are doing state-of-the-art things in one place at the same time, and you just start talking to each other. It's amazing, really, what can happen. And so I've got a couple, and I try to attend conferences, within my expertise, but also out of my expertise. You need this cross-pollination for me, and also it informs my investing. So I like investing a lot, and that's kind of how I get new ideas or are able to see things properly or analyze things properly, when opportunities pop up in terms of investing. So what are the new conferences I'm thinking of? There's 2 in particular. So one is a digital nomad conference, and it's let me get this right here. I'm going to pull it up for a second here. It's called the Bansko Nomad Summit. So I wanted to try to get to Europe and break out of the Asia groove for a little bit in terms of the digital nomad thing. And so I saw that there's a festival in Bansko in the summertime, or June, July. And so I thought that looked interesting to me. It'll, get me in touch with different types of people, and I'll learn about a different part of the world. I really haven't spent that much time in Europe, so I think it's just I'm kind of due to kind of get over there and figure that out. So that's one I'm thinking about. If anyone's been to it, I don't know if it's new. I think it's fairly new, but if anyone's been to it and wants to shoot me an email or something and tell me hey, this is cool, or this is the thing to do, or it's the place to stay, I would welcome some information on that. Another one that I'm thinking about is an angel investor conference, and that's happening in Tel Aviv around the same time, or mid-June. It's the iAngels investor conference. I think it's a conference. I'm not sure what it is, because they just sent me a save the date notice. So yeah, and it's where they go over. So iAngels has they're basically an angel investment company or private equity company, however you want to think about it. And they have a portfolio of ventures, of startups that they're investing in that are in the engineering and technology world, the software world, but also in the crypto and blockchain space. So they have kind of two portfolios, and they call them two different things, but there's two different brands of their investing, but it should be pretty interesting, and I'm excited to do it. And that's one of the things I want to learn more about is venture investing. And I started my first venture investment this past year, in 2019. So I started that as a way to just diversify a little bit, try to learn more about the technology world and really what's happening. I wouldn't suggest venture investing to many people unless it's a higher risk way to invest, and it's slower returns, and it's ties up your money and all that kind of stuff. So it's not any better necessarily than the stock market. To me, equities investing is the easiest, simplest, and highest return kind of stuff you can do out there. But on the venture side or private equity side, it allows me to learn other things. I'm kind of looking at it as a way to educate myself. So it's kind of like I could spend $10K buying a course or going to a university for a semester, or I could buy into this venture fund for $10K and meet a bunch of different people and learn from them and figure out what's going on. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Yeah, so those are the two conferences that I have in mind, new ones for this year. And hey, if there's a new conference that you think I should check out there, let me know. All right, let's get to number 5. Expand into a new venture in terms of investing. So number 5 is an investment goal, way to reinvent myself. And I want to invest in one more new venture. And so maybe it'll come out of attending that conference in Israel, or maybe something else will pop up on my radar screen. There's another angel investing group I'm thinking about joining, so maybe I'll find something through them. But I just want to learn a little bit more about this scene, learn a little bit more about the technologies that I'm interested in. And if I put my money on the line, it really forces me to do some research and get into it rather than sitting on the sidelines. So it's kind of like a psychological ploy for myself to continue to learn, because I know, if I don't have any money on the line, I'm not going to pay attention. I'll casually observe this thing. But if I have a vested interest, it forces me to learn. It makes me get into it, and it's just more fun for me, I guess. So that's also on my radar screen, is to expand my venture investing. So that's number 5. Okay, number 6. I guess while we're talking about finance and stuff, number 6 is generate one new revenue opportunity. So what does that mean, revenue opportunity? So for me, I guess I'm thinking that, as I continue in the entrepreneur space, try to figure out what kind of entrepreneur I am and how to be an entrepreneur, more so than I've been. I've had my consulting business for a while, but that's sort of like I guess it's solo entrepreneur, or as a consultant, it's not a real. An entrepreneur is more about building a larger thing and making it sort of, me being the owner and trying to create an operation that kind of works unto itself and taking myself out of the equation. Where consulting, it's kind of like trading. You're still trading your time for money, even though you're on your own. It's not quite entrepreneurship, I would say. So I'm trying to, be more of an entrepreneur. And so when I say generate a new revenue opportunity, I'm thinking maybe it's a new client, but maybe it's a new business model. So, like in I think it was 2018 was the Nomad Summit in Las Vegas, where I met RJ Makalanda and CJ, and they were talking about merch by Amazon. So that was one new revenue opportunity that I discovered and I experimented with. And so in 2019, I put some T-shirt designs together. And if people aren't familiar with merch by Amazon, it's a print-on-demand application that Amazon offers. It's merch.amazon.com, I believe. Just go there and you'll figure out. You got to sign in and figure out how it works. But they allow you to sell merchandise on Amazon.com, and they produce it for you. So it's print on demand. But, you have to figure out kind of the search and keywords and figure out how to do design. So I figured that out. I actually sold some t-shirts, so it was cool. So that was like a new revenue opportunity to discover. It's not my main bag, or I'm not that into it, but it taught me a lot. And, it helps me understand, the internet going forward, helps me understand Amazon as a company, as an investment. For example, I hold some Amazon stock. And so I just look at that as just a great learning experience. So that's what I'm looking for, a new revenue opportunity. I have no idea what it's going to be. But, I kind of putting that idea in my mind, I'm sure something will pop up throughout the year. Maybe it's the venture investment, maybe it's something else, but yeah, that's just one number 6 on my list. Okay. All right. So those are some finance and business things. Number 7 is more of a personal thing, and that is to record some music. Okay. So, I'm a musician. I play saxophone. I play a little piano, a little guitar, some other things, but sax is my main instrument out there, and I really have not spent that much time recording music. So I've done a ton of gigs, playing in all different types of groups, big bands, combo groups, rock, pop, jazz, blues, all kinds of different stuff over the years. And I've recorded a few things, but I feel like that, the time is now. I really want to focus on recording and developing myself more from an artistic point of view with music, rather than just being a gigger or a sideman. And I think that goes along with changing my mindset, with becoming more of an entrepreneur. And if anyone out there listened to the episode I recorded with Bobby Salvaggio, who's amazing saxophone artist, amazing jazz player, improviser, really a state-of-the-art improviser that's out there. We talked about this sort of entrepreneurship and artistry, how it goes together. Really, like, I think of an artist as an entrepreneur. If you're not interested in, finding an audience and being creative and all those kind of things, you're really not an artist. You're just kind of playing for yourself or whatever. And so, this artistry and entrepreneurship, it's almost the same in my mind. And so maybe that's probably why I'm thinking, like, I need to record some music. I want to find my sound and, just figure it out, spend some time. It also helps me. It's also kind of a meditation, to sit down and really dig into music. It's so fruitful and healing, for me personally, but also for the musicians I play with, and also for the people that experience the music, especially when I'm playing and when things I've released previously. So that's really one I'm excited about, actually. And so I'm kind of putting it out there. A little bit nervous to be putting it out there for everyone to ask me about later. Like, hey, what are you doing with recording music these days? I'm like, well, I did say I was going to do that this year, so maybe it'll keep me accountable and work something out for everybody. Okay. All right, let's go to number 8. Number 8 is continue purging. Okay. All right, what does that mean? That's just the way I wrote it down. But over the last couple of years, I've been trying to just get rid of a bunch of stuff. So, it's over the last, probably 15 years of, probably almost 20 years of just accumulating stuff. You get into work mode, and you're so busy with working, and you need to buy a bunch of work clothes and a bunch of things, and you need to buy a good car and all this stuff, and I got to buy a house, and I got to do this. You got to buy all these things in terms of like dealing with your career and trying to understand the world when you first get out of school. That I've just been in accumulation mode all these years, and now I feel like the time is right is to just really get back to basics. Really start purging and getting a lot of that clutter out of my life, and really, it's just I'm like, I get so excited when I start thinking about more stuff that I can like get rid of out of my house. Maybe thinking because someday maybe I'll be more of an actual digital nomad, traveling around more full time, or maybe I'll sell my house and get an apartment, or maybe I'll just get an apartment anyways. And the house I live in it's a duplex, so I rent one half out. So maybe I'll just keep the 2 units and get an apartment, whatever. But I want less stuff is the point. And just recently I just cleared out a bunch of my business clothes that had been, piling up for over the years that, when I was really in the throes of the corporate scene, man, you got to have all these business shirts and nice pants and all this kind of stuff. And I went, and I hadn't worn them for it's probably been a couple years now since I really was in that world day to day where I had to go to client offices every day. And so I just hadn't worn those clothes much. And so I started cleaning them out of my closet, and I started pulling out things like, oh, does this still fit, whatever? And literally all of my nice wool slacks that are like, they probably cost $150 a piece. I mean, beautiful wool slacks. They had all been eaten through by moths. I swear to God, it was like just holes like in the crotch and the pockets, like down the legs. I was just like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. So it actually made the decision easy to just get rid of them all because I couldn't wear them again anyways. But I was kind of chuckling to myself like, yeah, I guess I really wasn't using these. So got rid of them, got rid of a ton of shirts I wasn't wearing. So I still have, a decent set when I need to dress up or whatever, but it felt so good to get rid of all that stuff. And, you can always buy something back if you need it, but just get rid of it. I only want, just a limited set of clothes now, limited pairs of shoes and all that kind of stuff. And it feels good. And now the next thing probably on my list to purge is just going through boxes of old papers from school and old books and things I've just been hanging on to because I thought I needed them for reference materials or something like that. But, the world has changed. You can find all that stuff online these days. So purging, that's number 8. Okay, so number 9. Okay, number 9 is learn more, expand about meditation, and expand my meditation practice. Okay, hold on. I got to get a sip of water here. 1 second. Okay, I think I'm starting to understand the challenges of a solo podcast where you talk enough, you need a little break and take some water. Hold on. Okay. All right, back at you. Expanding my meditation practice. So, I've been getting into meditation. Maybe I started. Gosh, it's probably been maybe 5 or 6 years ago where I bought this book. I don't know. It was on a whim. I don't know where I saw it, but I guess I was intrigued because the book is. I want to get the title right. Is by Russell Simmons. And it's called Success Through Stillness. Russell Simmons, Success Through Stillness. So if people out there remember Russell Simmons, so his brother was Daryl Simmons, who was part of Run DMC. And Russell is a big entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, billionaire. And I think his big brand was Fat Farm. I think it was. Yeah, Baby Fat, like his wife started Baby Fat, whatever. But it was during that era where, where sort of the urban and hip-hop clothing business niche was born and just went crazy, like in the probably, when rap started, so like mid-'80s on. That thing just blew up whenever he's very successful, but he's a guy that came from the hood, that he's got a very interesting story. The book is kind of the story of his life, but how he got into meditation and yoga and how he's been able to find success over the years. Coming from, rough neighborhood where he was like smoking PCP as a teenager and all this kind of stuff, but realized like, hey, I'm going to change my life around. And he went vegan, started doing yoga, and started meditating. And it's a real simple introduction to meditation if you've never kind of figured out like what meditation is or how to do it or why it works. So like, to me, it was reading that book. It jived with me because I had been doing yoga. This goes back, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe by now. Or I dated a girl where her sister was a yoga teacher. So I started getting into yoga and realized the benefits of yoga, where yoga is kind of, it's a cool deal where if you just practice yoga, you get the mental benefits and the physical calming benefits of yoga, whether you believe in this stuff or not. Okay. Because, when you practice breathing, when you sit in these poses that are stressful, but you learn to breathe through that stress and be calm through it, etc., it really changes you, and you kind of approach life in that similar way day to day. That concept bleeds over into your life, whether you think it would or not. And so, that's why you see like some of these yogis where they're really sort of happy-go-lucky, hippy-dippy, because they're doing tons of yoga, and it affects your mindset, and it makes you sort of mellow and non-reactive, etc. It's really cool. Well, the same thing conceptually really happens when you meditate. That's kind of the goal of meditation. Not that there's a big goal of it, it's just sort of a consequence of doing it. Where if you quiet your mind and allow yourself to be more an observer of what's happening and understanding that your thoughts and feelings, they're just, fleeting and they're really not you, you sort of that will bleed over into your daily life and allow you to be more focused and more non-reactive and, be able to make better decisions in terms of, what's really important to you. So anyways, that's kind of like just a kind of a logical explanation of why meditation is a good thing for you. So, some people may think it's like, oh, that's just foo-foo stuff, or that's some kind of, weird religious thing, or whatever people think about it, But for me, I'm more of a scientist at heart, physicist guy. It's like, it just makes sense. It works. It actually works based on your biology and physiology and chemistry and all that kind of stuff. So I want to learn more about it. I really haven't studied like transcendental meditation or read too much about meditation. I just read that one book, got me started, and it's really been beneficial to me, believe it or not. So I want to kind of just get more into it routinely. So, when I first started meditating, I could only do it for like a couple of minutes, and it was like a struggle for me. And over the last literally like 2 to 3 minutes, I started and was like, boy, this is tough to just quiet my mind for 3 minutes because, it's uncomfortable. You don't know what you're doing at first. But now that I've gotten into it, now I've upped my time really in the last 4 months, let's say, where I went to 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Now I'm at like 16 minutes when I do it. And I get to the end of that 16 minutes quite often, and it's like a surprise that the timer goes off, because I'm so really into this meditative state. And it's just an amazing feeling where you're like, oh man, I felt like I could have gone forever when the timer rings, and that you're in the right zone then, you know what I mean? Because time sort of stops. So I'm not like, I'm not trying to do it for 2 hours at a time. I want to kind of like, under promise and over deliver to my own mind. You know what I mean? So I'm at a good stage with it right now. So that's number 9. Okay. So let's get on to number 10 here. This is like the final one, 10 for 2020 here. So number 10 is I want to read and finish more of the books that I have, and in both ways. So like I've been trying to read more books just generally over the last few years, and just trying to lean into more entrepreneurship and learning stuff. You just have to do it. But it's really beneficial, again, in terms of reinvention, really giving yourself different avenues to think, different ideas in your head to open up, just new connections. And, speaking of meditation and consciousness, etc., so I have to tell you a funny story. So this is one of the books I started reading a couple years ago when I first started the podcast, was called The Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference, by J.V. Crum III. And it's an international bestseller. And the reason I mention it is because I actually met JV right soon after I started the podcast. And this guy is like a big influencer out there. He's got millions of followers on on Twitter and big channels, and he's a published author, has sold a ton of books. And there was a chance that I had to interview him early on when I first started the podcast. And I was so green at that time, and my mind had not quite shifted or opened up to this possibility yet. I was like scared shitless. Okay, I was like, I can't do that. I can't interview this guy. He's famous, or he's powerful, or he's got too many listeners. I was too inside my ego or whatever it was. Like I was afraid, basically. Kind of boiled down to fear. I'm not sure what I was afraid of. I thought maybe I wouldn't do a good job, or I wasn't ready to interview someone like him, or whatever it might be. Anyways, I met him, and he gave me a copy of his book. And so I started reading it, but I never got through the whole thing. So I want to go actually through and finish it. So I can see where my page is bookmarked. And let's see here. It is page 114. Yeah, so I got to get through it. It's about maybe 300 page book. So I'm going to finish that. It's a really cool approach to, yes, you're making money, but what's the impact that you want to make? And the more you focus on the impact and what you can do for other people, the more money you're going to make. I mean, it's just how the world works, So Conscious Millionaire is one I'm going to finish. There's another book that I just recently bought. I'll give you an example of another one that I'm trying to read here. It's called The Circle. And it's kind of about sort of like maybe the technology utopia or dystopia. I'll give you the synopsis really here. And I don't really know this author. It's Dave Eggers. So maybe someone out there that knows Dave Eggers can tell me whether he's cool or not. But here's what this thing's about. When May Holland is hired to work for The Circle, the world's most powerful internet company, she feels she's been given the opportunity of a lifetime. Even as life beyond the campus grows distant, even as a strange encounter with a colleague leaves her shaken, even as her role at The Circle becomes increasingly public. What begins as the captivating story of one woman's ambition and idealism soon becomes a heart-racing novel of suspense, raising questions about memory, history, privacy, democracy, and the limits of human knowledge. So it's kind of a book about how the tech world is affecting us and privacy and all these kinds of things. So I just thought, it's probably instructive. I'll learn something about the world that we're all going to be having to live in. But those are just two things that are on my reading list. And so I'm actually going to try to start these books and finish them, because usually I'll like start a book and get bored. I'll read the first 2-3 chapters and be like, okay, I kind of have the idea, and I won't really finish it. But there's always a lot of good stuff if I actually decide to finish the books. So that's number 10. So that's my top 10 for 2020. Okay. And, at the start, I said I had a little bonus that I was going to tell everybody about. It's not really a bonus. I guess it's maybe number 11 or something like that. I thought, hey, the people are out there that are focused and have, cool things that they're doing to reinvent themselves. I would love to hear about them. So number 11 is really my bonus of, asking people out there so we can all learn from each other, people that are listening to the podcast, that have been following the podcast. If there's something special that you're doing to reinvent yourself, I'd love to hear about it. So you can send me an email anytime, JimJim@JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com, or tweet at me at JimJimGroup on Twitter. You can message me on Facebook or post something on the Facebook page. There's a Jim Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast Facebook page, so if you can find it, you can like it and post something there if you like. But let's all kick off 2020 with more intention. So, your mind is powerful, and if you just set some intentions, it's not even about massive goals or specific goals. Really, specifics are not the key, I don't think. I think the intention is, I want to spend more time in this area, or I want to spend more time here. And then once you put the intention in place, the goals will just start falling into place. The goals will automatically start to happen. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of. So that's my top 10 for 2020. I hope you guys enjoyed this new solo podcast effort. So that was one of my goals accomplished already, or one of my intentions out there to the universe already. So let me know, give you some feedback if you like the solo episode or not. Obviously I have more interview episodes coming up. I got a couple in the can, a couple scheduled already, some really cool stuff that's going to happen for this year. So keep listening, and let's all rock it in 2020. And so there you have it. So signing off from Vegas, high above the strip here. All right. Talk to everybody next time. Thank you for listening to Jim Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com. See you next time. And remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of. Hey, revolutionaries, if you enjoyed today's episode and today's guest, let them know by commenting on their Facebook page, finding their Twitter handle or Instagram feed, and letting them know you heard them on JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, and tell them what you got out of the episode, what you really liked, or how they inspired you. I know they would get a kick out of it and will help others find the same value that you found.